So welcome to the second webinar in our Native Ag Communicators Work Group series, which is Amplify Your Message with Digital Media Tools. And so if this is your first time joining us, maybe you saw our social media posts and thought, what is this Native Ag Communicators Work Group? Like I want to show up and kind of see what it is. I just want to welcome you. My name is Samantha Belote. I'm a communications manager with the Native American Agriculture Fund. I'm from the Spokane Indian Reservation up in Eastern Washington, and I currently reside in La Grande, Oregon. I've been with NAF for almost about 3 years, but my undergrad is in digital media and my master's is in marketing specifically. So thank you guys for being here. What the Native Ag Communicators Group is a collaborative workspace for communication specialists that work in native agriculture specifically. So it's a cohort for us communicators to come together, bring in our creative voices, ideas, projects, learn from our peers, learn from people that work in the same rural communities across the US, and help develop our communication skills along the way. So today's webinar is part of our bi-monthly webinar series, which that was a result of a survey that we put out in January to the group to kind of get feedback on how we were going to shape our 2025 year of programming. Some of the questions were like, what do you want to know more about? What do you want to see? And we heard back from people and we kind of started grouping and narrowing down. So our last webinar was it was myself and my now coworker Mary Bell Zook, and we just kind of spoke on the importance of storytelling. And this webinar is obviously about how to use digital media tools. July's webinar, if any of you guys have to get out of here before the webinar ends, just want to let you know that it is going to be specifically about social media strategy. So basically how to promote agriculture initiatives, increase engagement, content creation, content calendars, reel making, TikTok making. We're going to come together with our panelists and kind of have maybe it be more of a training workshop period. So to stay up to date with everything that we're doing as far as native ag comms, as in this work group specifically, I did make a web page and I'm going to go ahead and send that out in the chat, but it is at Native American Agriculture Fund .org/native ag comms. So there you can sign up for our newsletter and webinar invites and stay up to date with this work group. So if you're around in July, please join us for this social media strategy webinar series to learn some tips and tools. And even if you think that you know everything, or maybe you do know some stuff that we don't cover and you want to share with the group, that's exactly what this Native Ag Communicators Work Group is. And so feel free to let anyone in your organization know that this webinar is coming up. Maybe you don't handle the social media, maybe someone else in your organization does, but please let them know that they're invited to join and participate in the conversation. So before I introduce our speakers and let them share their expertise in the projects that they've used in their community, I wanted to set the stage for what is honestly the universe of digital media. And I say universe because as you know, as communication specialists, there is a lot of digital media just in general. And it seems like every month there's a fancy new tool to use. You can see from this list that this is just scratching the surface, but it really is a lot to keep up with on a daily basis. So for me, I'm regularly in Photoshop, Canva, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Adobe. Like these are all platforms that we're in on a regular basis, and it can be absolutely overwhelming. And so the question is, how can you as communication specialists keep up in a digital media world that is constantly changing, where it feels like you can't get ahead or break through all the noise unless you create something that is just completely out of this world or innovative or creative or something that goes viral? It can be so overwhelming. So really, how can you keep up? Pro tip from me, I don't think that you have to. And so that's a relief. But when you think about where we're working, and that being an Indian country, when you're working for an organization, you might be wearing more than one hat. You might be currently right now, who's on our work group call today, you might be someone who works in HR that just was handed social media, or you might be a supervisor that has to make flyers for an upcoming training that you have. So what I've learned is that people who try to be everywhere and try to be on all these platforms all the time, they overwhelm themselves, and their efforts show up across the different platforms as inconsistent and maybe missing the mark a little bit. So I'm here to reaffirm you that you do not have to do all of the things. What you do need to do is figure out your audience, find out where they are, and be the best there. So what that means is basically to keep yourself focused instead of thinking of all of these places and tools that you should be using. Really consider, who are you trying to reach? Are you trying to reach youth? Are you trying to reach farmers? Maybe you're trying to reach your community or tribal leaders. Once you identify your audience, then you find out where they are. What online platforms are they using? What messaging works best for those groups? And then you be the best there. So literally meeting them where they're at. And your audience may differ depending on what sort of campaigns that you have going on. Maybe you are doing a farmer workshop and you want to invite farmers. That messaging and that platform that you're using to reach out to those farmers might be a different method than it is when you're engaging youth, right? So maybe farmers, they want it just clearly laid out. Maybe you're even doing print materials for farmers. Then when you get to the youth side of things, maybe you're doing TikToks or Instagram reels and or YouTube videos. And really, again, figuring out your audience, finding out where they are, and being the best there. So here we have a page just to give you kind of a brief overview of social media. This is a page of where the different demographics are according to social medias from a 2024 research article. So here we have, this probably isn't news to all of you, but just to kind of really, again, think of those different buckets of people that we're trying to message to. You have Gen Z, ages 12 to 27, approximately 60.7 million in the US, and 90% of them use YouTube. They're also on TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat remains widely used among teens, but nearly half of US teens report being online almost consistently. So they're there. And then the millennials, ages 28 to 43, this is my category that I fit into, approximately 68.8 million in the US, making up nearly 1/3 of all US social media users. So we're pretty much everywhere. And I think it is because we grew up in more of that digital age where I was in college and Facebook and MySpace were a thing. And now it's just completely taken off. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter are the most constantly used. Millennials are the most active demographic on social media, with 69.2 estimated to be using social media in 2025. Then we move to Gen X. So then you think about messaging to either maybe some of these farmers or maybe these tribal leaders, people that fit in that age 44 to 59 demographic. So approximately 51.8 million in the US there. And they're on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, frequently used. Gen Xers have increased their social media usage in recent years, but mainly there for product research and shopping. And then we move on to baby boomers. So 60 to 78 ages, approximately 36.9 million in the US, the age group with the lowest social media usage. That isn't surprising, but everyone, they are on Facebook. So we could potentially change our messaging to maybe something print related or Facebook related, maybe running Facebook ads. So baby boomers are increasingly engaging with social media for brand research and trying to stay connected. So they want to be connected. So the average daily time spent on social media, global average, but I bring in social media to this because it's showing that they're also online using some of these digital media platforms, and how can we kind of break through, right? So approximately 2 hours and 23 minutes per day are spent on social media, and then it's broken up by age here, 16 to 24. almost 4 hours a day on social media. Millennials, close behind, averaging almost 3 hours on social media. So here are some digital tools before we get into our presentation piece with our speakers, but here are just some digital tools that we use as communication specialists. I'm in Canva Pro a lot, and that Canva Pro is free for nonprofits. You just have to prove your nonprofit status. And basically, it is I would recommend that to anyone that's just kind of like trying to get started. I know that Ray's going to go into a little Adobe Express platforms and applications that he uses. But also keep in mind that Ray is a pro, okay? And so you might be just, again, wearing a hat, just trying to make everything look unified for your organization. And you might not be the social media person, or you might not be the person that's in charge of this, but that's the hat that you're wearing. Canva Pro is something, this is not an ad for Canva Pro, but it's just something easily used. And so is Adobe Express, which you'll look and see the behind the scenes when Ray does his presentation. And then so all of the other platforms here are things that you're able to use or take a deeper dive in seeing, again, if it fits with your organization. And so that's another thing I want to hit before we jump in is we might be throwing these creative projects out you and giving you kind of some tips and tools to use along the way, but really keeping in mind, like, does this work with my organization? Does this work with my capacity as a communication specialist or someone that, is just now learning how to do communication and use these digital tools? So think about your capacity and what you have time for, and that could probably let you know what digital tools that you're able to dive in a little bit more deeper. So I do some video editing. So I use Final Cut Pro. I know some people use Adobe Premiere Pro, but then there are some people who just want it fast and easy and free, and that is something like CapCut. And CapCut is also used for a lot of TikTok videos and Instagram Reels and things like that. So again, considering who your audience is, what you have the capacity to do and spend time on, really just kind of finding out where those two things marry is where you're going to hit your bread and butter as a communication specialist. So now that I've kind of laid out the foundation of these digital media tools, what you're here to learn today is how to level up your digital strategy. So that's like using things like social media, email platforms, content schedules, creating zines, to custom graphics, to amplify your message, grow your audience, look cohesive, and then help drive impact. So I'm going to introduce our speakers, and we have Ray Janis, and he is a graphic designer from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, a communications manager at Makoce Agriculture Development, and Leah Simeon, who is the director of curriculum of development at Sister Sky Incorporated and co-founder of Red Bird Collective. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Ray.
Cool. Hey, what's up, everybody? Tell me if this works. Can y'all see this? Yes.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So my name's Ray Janice. I gotta click on that to make it work, right? So I'm from Kyle, South Dakota originally. Grew up there. I was in the health field for like 10 years. I was doing Photoshop and teach myself Photoshop on my own, making flyers and posters. And I seen OLC had a degree for graphic arts. So I went back to school, got my degree in 2021 during the pandemic, which was cool because I could just do it all online while still working. So it worked out for me. Um, got my degree in graphic arts, took a job with another nonprofit as a graphic designer, and kind of got my feet wet in the whole design process, which was fun. Um, while I was in school, I found my niche in like logos and creating different branding, which I didn't know at the time. I didn't know it was branding. I was just making stuff for people. Like my friends would be like, "I got a hip hop album coming out. Can you do me a cover and do my name and like And I was just making stuff like, oh, I like it how it looks like this. And then when I went to school and I figured all of this stuff out, it really helped me to really identify what I like to do and help me in my career. So my first job, I was really, I made, I worked for Thunder Valley CDC and I helped create the branding and logo for the Lakota Media Summit and their food summit. And it was all a great experience and like kind of get my feet wet and get my feet under me. And then I started working here at Makoce Agriculture Development. And from then on, when we got here, um, me and Gracie Claymore, our social media manager, she started off working with me, and our first projects that we wanted to come up with was rebranding Makoche Agriculture. We later on added Sheldon Starr as another graphic designer, and John Red as community engagement. So this is my team. I want to shout them out. Everything that we do together really elevates Makoche's presence and voice in the community. So I really appreciate my team. So shout out them. Uh, Makoche, Makoche means the land. So we got to figure out, whenever we started, it was all like, all right, Makoche, the logo and the mission statement, we had to get familiar with who Makoche was and what do they want to bring to the table. And so their mission statement is to develop indigenous agriculture and food systems designed to regenerate equitable, healthy communities, economies, and our environment. And their vision statement is healthy, growing homelands. And Makoche in Lakota, it means the land. And so when we got on this was 2023, we wanted to create a brand book. Makoche didn't have a brand book at the time. They had a logo and they had a system for how their logo looks and two different variants of a logo, but that was it. I didn't have any color codes or hex codes or the fonts. I didn't know any of that stuff. So that was one of my plans was like, all right, well, I want to be able to give on to the next person after me and my team. Oh, this is all the stuff that we need to use across any platform, right? In our brand book, we created a brand story, and that's kind of like what I'm going to talk about today with our logo. And then we had a strategic planning where we talked about brand values. And so in the brand values, we wanted to identify what Makoche values as a whole. And we came up with, we wanted to be consistent, we wanted to be transparent, we wanted to be trustworthy, and we wanted to be radical in our thoughts and not so by the book or almost like cliche to kind of say it like that, I guess. And then we have our mission and vision, and then we have our logos. There's multiple logos in there, and it tells you kind of how to do it and use them in different varieties, the colors and the fonts, and then any asset that goes along with it. So our assets part of it, we can always add to it. So if like Sheldon decided to make a magpie or a buffalo, any kind of like artwork that we wanted to use across all the platform, we'll add it into those assets as well. So some of the tools that we use, I'm really big on field notes. And so like I still walk around with a paper and pencil and I work when you work on agriculture, so sometimes we got to be out in the field, right? So I've figured out to use the write in the rain stuff. I really like it. Like you can still draw on the paper if it's raining or if it's wet. It doesn't matter. It keeps. So if I have an idea out in the field, that's kind of where I just jot stuff down and then I use it to figure out like, well, what do I want to make this logo into? So these are some of the early sketches of like what I was trying to do for Makoche, and then actually digital where I put them into Illustrator and start working on them even more. We use the Adobe suite. Sheldon Sheldon and myself are very familiar with Adobe. That's pretty much all we use is Illustrator. We used to really be heavy into Photoshop. Um, I think college kind of like pushed us to Illustrator because it's like fun to design, really huge. And we're not really doing, oh, well, you can do pictures of people in Illustrator, but we're doing more design work and logos and stuff on that aspect. And then we'd use Adobe Express. So like our social media manager, Gracie, she's not proficient in Illustrator or Photoshop, but we could send stuff to Adobe Express. It's very similar to Canva. Uh, Anything we upload into there, we could upload all our brand, all of our fonts, all of our colors, and then she could go in there and put stuff where she needs it and add it in. And so that way, all she has to do is put it together. The team will look at it all as a whole together and then approve it or edit it as needed, and then they go out. Gracie got really good at kind of knowing what to look for now, hanging around two uh, graphic designers all day, probably just rubbed off on her. So now she looks at stuff as like we look at stuff, and she's like, "Oh, that's bad. Oh, that looks." We're out here judging everybody's work, just like a graphic designer, right? And then to keep all of our stuff organized, we use Monday.com and then Slack as well. We all work in different areas. Right now, I'm based in Rapid City. Gracie's down in Thunder Valley, and then Sheldon is in Rapid City as well, and then John is in Manderson. So we're kind of all over the place. Oh, I should say South Dakota as well. That's where we're based out of in South Dakota. I don't know if I said it, but yeah. And then so those are kind of how we keep track with everybody. Um, all right. So 2023 is growing, right? The old logo on the left, you could see it has a ton of colors in it. It's the stereotype of a native nonprofit logo or native organization's logo, right? They want to tell a big story. They want to tell all of the stuff that they envision for their brand, and then they had an artist come in and then knock it out, right? So we have trees. They want to talk about the buffalo. They want to talk about the prairie dogs and the animals, and we'll show all of the ecosystems in Porcupine and on the res. And then I even thought this whenever I first got on, I didn't notice this at the time. And then talking to Nick Hernandez, the CEO and founder of Makoce, the brown at the bottom is 7 browns for like the 7 layers of sediment. And I was all like, wow, that's kind of cool. And like all of this, like I found very interesting when he told me about it. And he said that he sketched it out with the artist at the time. I think his name was Walt Puyer. They sketched it out and he showed Walt, and Walt went and made this. And I was all like, that's cool. How much does it cost to get a shirt printed? Like, I just imagine it's like expensive, right? And it is. And so, like, for the majority of the time, they were using just the Makoce Agriculture Development part with the feather as like printing materials rather than the whole full logo because it's like so much colors. It's really expensive. And then even like those variants of browns, screen printers probably aren't going to take the time to like, oh, I need to make 7 browns. They're just going to probably slap one together. But yeah, and so we wanted to take that design and move it into the future. So what we did is we took all of those elements off of there and we simplified it down. At first, I should mention this too. It's just kind of a funny story. At first, so like the first 3 months of designing it, I was going way away from it. So like I went like he talked about the importance of the magpie feather, and I was like, oh cool, like, and so I made a like diamond shape with the circle like a magpie feather, and then I put an M inside of it, and then we liked elements of it, but not necessarily the logo itself. It was really simplified. It wasn't a circle no more. There was a circle in it, but it wasn't a circle no more. And so 3 months go by, and then we're like, all right, now we have to adjust and go by and redo it. And with all the adjustments, Nick won it. And the team was like excited for something new, right? And so this is what we came up with was this logo on the right. We took the browns and we simplified it to 1 brown, took the green, simplified it to 1 green. The orange in the back, which is the Badlands, we made it to red. And then the sky and the clouds, blue and white, right? And then we took the font and then we made our own custom type for it. And then we kept the same sub font, agriculture development is the same in both. And then we took his magpie feather and he showed me what magpie feather he wanted in his design. And it's from some beadwork, and they're really cool. Like it was like a fan, and so I took one of those elements and then created this feather that we have now. And so now we took all of those elements, and now we have the main logo, a sub logo, and then Sheldon made an alternate logo. And so whenever we're doing like favicons or anything where it needs to be super small, then we just use the MAD logo. And I really like how it turns out. Like we have variety in our things now. Our assets are like our magpie feather, our magpie on the top. And we use that as assets in all of our branding. So Gracie could go onto social media and add all of these elements in it. And then we have all of our colors now. Everyone is a Pantone color. And oh, by the way, too, I wanted to say this for any designers or people out there. If you're having a hard time because Adobe charges you for your Pantones, Stuart Semple gives you Pantone colors for free. You just go to his website and you download it, and you could plug it into your Illustrator or your Adobe Suite, and then you'll have all the Pantones for free. So you'll know all of the numbers, because they're not really colors, right? They're just numbers and letters, and you figure out what color it is. But that was a hard time for us. It's like, oh, you want the Pantones? I think it's like $100 a year or something, and it's just crazy just to get that. No, no, thank you, Adobe. You could keep that. But yeah, so then uh, we took the idea of Makoce, and was like the story of it. I should repeat that. The story of Makoce, the logo. I don't even think I even told it yet, but uh, so Makoce, Lakota creation story, Makoce, there was a great race for between everybody, the humans, the animals, the birds, everybody, like everybody was in it. And whoever won this race around the Black Hills was going to be the stewards of the land. And they go, and of course, we're humans, we're not very fast, so we're behind everybody, right? And the buffalo and the elk and everybody were all up in front, and the birds were ahead of us. And then the buffalo was leading the pack the whole time. And around the whole Black Hills in South Dakota, you'll see this red dirt all around the Black Hills. And it's because they ran so long that every animal's feet and every human's feet were getting bloody. And so that's where that red dirt comes from. At the very end of the race, the buffalo is going to win it. And the magpie was sitting on his back, just chilling the whole race, and then jumps off. And then at the very end, flies and wins. And he turns around, and everyone's like, okay, the magpie is going to be the steward of the land. And the magpie turned around and he gave that honor to the humans. So it was up to the Lakota people to steward the land and take care of all the animals and take care of the Heisapa, the Black Hills. So that's kind of what the logo transpired from, was from that creation story. And so what we did is we took that idea and that concept, and then we fit it into the logo. And then we created an animation off of that. So we took the bird jumping across the screen and one of the magpie feathers falling off and falling down onto the logo. And we created this. Yeah. So that's kind of what we came up with. It was really fun. I know my presentation real short. I just wanted to talk about rebranding of Makoce, and this process wasn't fast and easy. It like took, I think, almost like a year to do the whole rebranding with me and Grace, kind of the two forefront in this. And so we're doing a lot of um, talking with our team, but also like community surveys on what our team wants. And this is kind of the stuff that we kind of came up with. So yeah, that's what that's my. I could show you too, like how my artboard looked, which is horrible for whenever I did it. Let me get out of this, and then I'll stop share for that, and then I'll bring this over so you could see how horrible my artboard is for whenever I start doing the design work for it. So whenever I said I went a totally different way, this is what I was talking about. Uh, I was going with this. This is the original one that I was going with. And then I was trying to figure out a different M. And then when I was doing my pencil sketches is when I came up with this M. and that's what the part that they like. And then I realized I had to make a font for it, and so that's where I was sitting trying to make a whole font case for it. And then like the feather, this is where the feather came in, kind of how I designed the feather. And then it turned into all of this. So our logos and even our color codes. And this is like the first one that we put together. Yeah. And I could show you too, like even like if you never seen Adobe Express and how that looks. Like I presented in Adobe Express. So like all of our brand stuff. So for Gracie, all of our brand stuff is on this side. And all she has to do is click in it. It'll pop up. She could take any of the logos out of here. If she don't see one, she just click it. And we have like different versions of it. And then if she needs uh, the colors, all of the colors are right here. Our fonts are here, and then all of our assets. And we do have a podcast, so we made a podcast logo as well. So a lot of cool things you can do and add into here. And then all she has to do is create it, and it's very simple to create. Like all of the stuff in Express is similar to Canva. We could start from scratch, or we could go from templates, and we could basically create all of these different things. And then two, you share it across your team, so your whole team could see it, your whole team could edit it, which is cool. And I think if you do pay for the Adobe suite, you get it for free. I think it's free anyway, but I think the premium services like the AI generative new beta stuff and um, things like that are the add-on perks. But yeah.
Awesome, Ray. Thank you so much for showing us your work, and for me as a communication specialist, like even the behind the scenes of the thought process of how you created some things, or taking that original work of art and updating it. And then my favorite was the motion graphic, because those things take a lot of time when you do them yourself. And that's what's so cool, is that you literally did everything yourself, from even making the font. Like the attention to detail with that is amazing. And um, I think that's also kind of one of the downfalls with Canva, right? As a creative specialist like yourself, there's so many, it's easy to use Canva because that's just quick and dirty. But with what you've done, you've actually created a whole brand portfolio for your organization straight out of your mind. And that's really cool to see it applied like that. So thank you, Ray, for sharing. And another thing I want to mention is that this is going to be recorded and put on our website, but also shared out. And so if you guys do want to, share with your supervisor, like, hey, look, he has Adobe and this is what he did with it. Feel free to use these webinars as something to maybe leverage some digital tools that you can acquire for your organization. So thank you so much. And we're going to toss it on over to Leah. Leah, thank you for joining us today. And I'll let you share your screen and take it away.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Leah Simeon. I'm the Director of Curriculum Development at Sister Sky and co-founder of Redbird Camp Collective. We are Redbird is a small collective of Indigenous educators in the Pacific Northwest, and Sister Sky is focused on supporting Indigenous entrepreneurs, particularly in ag. And so here's some pictures of my daughter and me. I'm really big into gardening, and I'm very big into food sovereignty. So I do a lot of work with my community through Redbird and through our food sovereignty program on the res. I'm Spokane in the United States, and I'm also Pocochin up in BC. My BA is in English, and I have a master's in teaching. And I am self-taught in using digital creative platforms, so like Adobe and Canva and those sorts of things. So today I was just going to speak a little bit about the different tools that I've used and how I get information out to folks about the projects that we're working on. And the first question that I generally like to ask myself is which tool that I have available to me is going to be the most useful in addressing like the ultimate goals of a project. And it particularly comes down to three things of how much time I have, how much resources I can dedicate to it, and if there are any collaboration needs that I have. So Ray and Sam have already touched on it, but the two primary programs that I use are Canva and Adobe. Canva is a web-based graphic design software. You have to have internet in order to access it and use it to its full capacity. It has a lot of easy templates that are accessible, and you have the option to subscribe for a bigger account where you can have access to stock images, stock videos, and have kind of like that marketing suite, like what Ray showed in his Adobe Express, where it has like all of your images, your colors, and your fonts, and those sorts of things. Adobe is a bigger program that is, I like to say it's big investment for big power. Like Adobe is kind of considered the baseline, I would say, in the industry. But it also requires you to have a pretty powerful computer to run it and be able to use all of the tools. And as Ray showed, there is the free web-based version called Adobe Express. The only thing that I would add to Adobe Express is that you do have to have pretty reliable internet. It bogs down pretty quickly and kind of becomes unusable, in my opinion, if your internet isn't fast enough. So these are just two of the tools that I use, and I use them for different reasons. Primarily, I use Canva for making social media posts and report covers in my work right now. At Sister Sky, we do a lot of government contracting, and so I need to put together pretty looking report covers and update what we're doing on those projects. So I use Canva a lot. Adobe, I use primarily with my hobbies and document layout. So with part of our work, we developed a workbook for Indigenous entrepreneurship training. And so it's a physical printed workbook, but I will never lay out another typed document like this in Canva. It was horrible. It took forever. There's so many errors in here with lining up and like those sorts of things that I went and bought the Adobe Suite subscription, and I use InDesign to do all of my document layout now. Going back to kind of like the question of do I have the time and the resources for it, I actually had to purchase a gaming computer from Costco in order to run Adobe InDesign reliably and well. Because again, these are really big programs that your typical computer that you would pick up at, I don't know, like Staples, like my work computer, can't run those sorts of programs really well. But I so much hated, I so much hated laying this out in Canva that I was like, I want to do it, and it's a fun hobby for me. So I made the decision to buy the computer that can run Adobe. So some of the stuff that I make in my work I'm going to go through and kind of show a bit of the products that I've designed and made. The first is with Sister Sky. We make a lot of die cut stickers, and they're different stickers that we use in promotional items. So these are some of the stickers that I've designed using Canva, specifically to advertise our Native Business Canvas training that we do. And so we have just cute, funny little things that we have. And die cut means that it's like cut out to the shape. So it's like actually cut to the shape of like the Indian taco, the powwow lemonade, the cedar hat, and the basket hat, those sorts of things. Oh, that's my daughter. That's when we were testing out our new vendor, which I'll show at the end. But I wanted to make sure that their die cut stickers were good. So I put my daughter, that was the first time that she ever saw snow, and she was not happy about it. I also create zines as part of my hobby. And so this is again like that document layout that I really, really don't like doing in Canva anymore. But this was one of the first zines that we produced. Redbird Camp Collective collaborated with Spokane Tribal Network to produce a zine about food sovereignty. And so this is just a brief layout or a brief preview of what it looks like. I would say the downside with using Canva and document layout is that when you are putting together something that needs to be in print, there's a lot of physical things that must be considered, which is kind of hard to do when you're looking at it on the computer. There are things like bleeds and margins and paper sizes in consideration that have to be considered, especially with price. And Canva isn't necessarily the easiest to make adjustments afterwards. So initially we had wanted this zine to be printed full size, like office paper, like a normal printer sheet. But then afterwards we decided, wouldn't it be cool if it was like an A5 size, which is a standard size of paper. So being able to shrink that document down was super difficult in Canva. After that whole experience, and especially with the workbook, that's when I decided to go and spend the money on Adobe. And our next zine that we produced with Redbird and STN was laid out in Adobe. I feel like the ability to create really, really cool layouts was only possible in Adobe. Like I could have done like these layouts where, you know, you can't really tell, but these layouts are done in a way so that when you open the zine all the way, like that whole picture is on the entire like flat part. That could not have been done in Canva very easily. Like it would have required so much more work and so much more time and wouldn't necessarily be reliable to produce. And so with using Adobe, we were able to really up kind of our layouts and how we were doing them. So for example, this top one here, that's definition of cultural burn, that's an actual picture of my friend starting a burn at our proper at the community garden in order to you know, put the nutrients back in the soil and all that kind of stuff. But it's laid out so that when you have the zine flat, you see that whole thing. And similar with the story about Good Fire and Chickadee. Chickadee was the one that brought the Spokane's fire back. And so we were able to overlay a tribal member's artwork and then also have the actual story in it as well. So I really, I'm never going back to Canva for laying out zines or anything like that. The next thing that we do with Redbird is we do a lot of newsletters. And so this is where Canva is really helpful with collaboration. My buddy does not have Adobe and he will never get Adobe, but he and I are able to collaborate on Canva to create like really simple newsletters that are primarily used on digital sites, so Facebook and Instagram. And I call him a magpie. So we have the magpie here too. The last thing that one of the most main things that I use Canva for is with social media posts. It's just fast and easy. I can get on there and especially use it on my work computer. And so I just make a variety of different things with it. These are the professional documents that I was talking about that I use with making Sister Sky stuff. So those are the report covers there on the left-hand side, laying out kind of printed stuff. I also use Canva to create PowerPoint layouts and Zoom backgrounds. And then lastly, just like Ray, I do have a little notebook that I sometimes doodle ideas on. And typically what I'll do is if I just have an idea or I see something that's really cool, I'll just jot it down and come back to it with highlighters and color it in. And some of these designs have been used in zines or other artwork that I've done through Redbird. And then the last thing that I wanted to suggest is provide you all with the vendors that we use when we do get printing done. I highly recommend using Sticker Giant. They're the ones that we do all of our die cuts through. They're really, really awesome and reliable, and they have great customer service, and they take tax exemptions, and they're super easy about doing it. So everybody that works for a tribe and has that, they're super fast about taking it. And then we use Mixum for getting our zines and workbooks printed. And I've also had really, really good experience with their customer service. So that's just a little bit about how I use these two programs and what I make with them.
Leah, thank you so much. I am definitely realizing that my doodles compared to your doodles and Ray's doodles are very different levels. Um, yeah, that's so cool. The stickers are awesome. We had a few people mentioning the stickers. Can you just do you have a link or something to where you can buy the stickers? Not yet. You don't have an Etsy set up or anything?
No,
No.
but give me your mailing address. I can send you, yeah, Ray, I can send you the Res Dog sticker and yeah, just message me and I can send you one.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have about 7 minutes left over. If anybody has any questions for our speakers, please go ahead and drop that into the chat. I did have a question as far as Ray and Leah both speaking to it, but I think one of the things about having a successful brand or having a successful zine is community involvement. And I was wondering what Ray, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what would you say you guys do as far as getting the community involved? Leah, you include a lot of artwork from people in the community. Ray, you had mentioned that you guys did a little bit of a survey. So just in maybe a minute or so, minute or two, how would you kind of describe that process and what has been the most helpful when working with the community?
Ray, you can go first.
All right. So we do a couple different things. Our community is based on Facebook a lot, and a lot of it is through newspaper as well. A lot of elders still read newspaper and radio. So we have a radio show. We have a our quarterly news letter that we send out to all of the communities, and then we also do quarterly community engagement events. So whether that is somebody wants to make a knife making class, we'll put on a knife making class, or we'll do a buffalo harvest, teach people how to harvest a buffalo or a deer, depending on the season. It's kind of, we work it off of what season we're in. And then in the summer, late summer, early fall, we have a convergence where we invite all of these orgs in our region that are in agriculture together to Porcupine, and the community members all come together, and so they get to hear other orgs, what they have going on, kind of network and build, and then they hear from us. And then we also do chicken poultry raising, poultry production class. So we teach people how to raise chickens, how to butcher them, and then they come and we show them how to process them and break them down. So a lot of our stuff, the community has a big involvement in it. Community has a big stake in it. And so our main goal for the future is to build a food hub so we can build places where community come together, sell their local produce, and exchange ideas. So our main thing is radio, Facebook, Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. I mean, we're on every platform, but like a majority of our feedback comes from Facebook.
Awesome. And Leah?
I would say the most important thing with including or being in community is making sure that you're building trust and being reliable with folks. I think that that's true anywhere. In our community on the Spokane res, the word agriculture is not really taken very positively. I think there's a lot of different bias that come with that word. And so really sitting down with people and understanding what they think the word agriculture means is really important. And so, for example, initially when Spokane Tribal Network was getting started, the word agriculture was really important for Tribal Council for that to be included. And we really pushed against that for a long time to really focus on like, or really point out that like agriculture is a term that comes with baggage for us as Spokane's. Like we're not farmer, we're fishermen, and our fish don't come up the river anymore. And so what does that mean? That doesn't mean that we can't grow and we can't grow our own crops. And so we, like Ray, we do a lot of workshops. One of my a short story that was really cute was we did a bone broth class with deer bones, and it was so fun. The kids were we had kids and we had moms come out, but it was so much fun because you know when you boil it down and then all the what's it that makes it jiggly, that protein, the thing in Jello. I don't know why my mind is blinking, but the kids had so much fun and they were like, oh, that's what makes broth like so good for you. Do you guys know what that protein is called? Uh, I don't, it's going to come to me afterwards, but just being in community, building trust, having fun with people. That's one thing that I always, whenever I agree to do a program or a class out there, is just telling people like have fun. And then also when we invite non-natives to our events, we're always very much like, you're coming into our space not as lecturers, but you're coming into our space because we want you to be in our community with us. Those sorts of things. So yeah, it's just sitting down and being with people. Plus, that's where all the laughter and the fun is. That's what I like doing.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, I really, that's the cool thing about communications too, is you do get to work with all these different generations and you do get to sit down with elders. You do get to connect with the youth, and we only have about a minute left here. But one thing that I want to even maybe just plant a seed in your minds is trying to get the younger generation involved. So Leah said she was a self-taught designer. Ray said that he started drawing and, then kind of realized that graphic design could be for him. And I think that's one thing too that we're trying to maybe promote in native agriculture, is kind of building that bench for the next generation to come through. Whether these kids that are out there drawing, they might not know that there could be a career like Ray, like Leah, like myself. And so really, if there's an opportunity for us, which we do get into that piece later on this year in our programming, how do we engage the youth in agriculture communications? So it's 10 a.m. Here's the contact information. And then our next webinar, just as a reminder, is in July. That date will come out in our newsletter. And so please, if you can, check us out online. This is where the webinar is going to be shared. And that's also where you can sign up and see what we have on deck for the rest of the year. But thank you, Ray. Thank you, Leah, so much for participating in today's webinar. Thank you all who have come and joined, and definitely look forward to continuing to connect as this Native Ag Communicators Work Group. This is only our second webinar in our bi-monthly series, so really looking forward to building those relationships across US, across Native agriculture in Indian country. So thank you guys. Lem, have a good day, and we will see you later.